If you're here, it probably means you've been feeling something you can't quite name. Something that's hard to put into words. And maybe you've been searching for someone who understands. Someone who gets it, without you having to explain. Tonight, I want to sit with you in that feeling. In that space where words fail. Where explanations don't reach. Where you're just empty. And you don't know why. Carl Jung, he understood this. He understood that there's a kind of emptiness that exists beyond language, beyond simple explanations. An emptiness that isn't about lacking something external. It's deeper than that. More fundamental. And tonight, we're going to explore it together. Not to fix it, but to understand it. To see what it might be trying to tell you. As you lie here now, as you let yourself settle into the darkness, I want you to just notice. Notice if there's a feeling of emptiness somewhere inside you. Maybe it's been there so long you've gotten used to it. Maybe you don't even think about it anymore unless someone asks you how you're doing and you have to pause before saying fine. But it's there, isn't it? That sense that something's missing. That feeling of going through your life, but not really being present in it. Like you're watching from behind glass or living one step removed from your own experience. And the strange thing, the confusing thing, is that you can't point to what's missing. You can't say, oh, if I just had this thing or achieved that goal or met the right person, then I'd feel whole. Because it's not. It's not that kind of emptiness. It's not a hole that can be filled with external things. You might have everything, or at least, you might have enough. A life that, from the outside looks fine, maybe even good. And yet, there's this void, this sense of something fundamental being absent. And when you try to explain it to anyone, when you try to say what you're feeling, the words they don't capture it. How do you explain to someone that you feel empty when you can't even tell them what's supposed to be there instead? How do you describe a void, an absence, a nothing that somehow feels like everything? This is what Jung spent years trying to understand. This peculiar kind of emptiness that so many people feel but can't articulate. This existential void that isn't solved by therapy or medication or positive thinking or any of the usual solutions people suggest. Because this emptiness, it's not a symptom of something wrong with your brain chemistry. It's not. It's not because you're ungrateful or pessimistic or not trying hard enough. It's something else entirely. Something that Jung believed was actually meaningful. Important even. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's just start by acknowledging what this feels like. Because maybe if we can name it, if we can see it clearly, it won't feel quite so isolating. You won't feel quite so alone in it. So what is it? This emptiness. What does it actually feel like for you? For some people, it's like there's a hollow space inside their chest, right in the center, where something should be but isn't. Like a room that's supposed to be furnished, but it's just empty, echoing, cold. For others, it feels more like numbness, like all your feelings have been muted somehow, turned down. So you go through your days and things happen. Good things, bad things, And you register them intellectually, but you don't really feel them. Not the way you think you should. Not the way other people seem to. Or maybe for you it's more like disconnection. Like you're here, but you're not here. Like there's a barrier, a wall, between you and your life, between you and other people, between you and your own experience. You watch yourself living, but you're not. You're not really in it. You're observing from somewhere else. Some people describe it as a longing, a persistent sense that something's missing, but they can't identify what. They keep thinking, maybe if I move to a new city, or maybe if I change careers, or maybe if I find the right relationship, then this emptiness will finally go away. But it doesn't. It never does. Because whatever they're longing for, it's not something that exists outside themselves. Or perhaps it feels like heaviness to you, a weight. Like you're carrying something that makes everything harder. Every task requires more effort than it should. Even simple things. Even getting out of bed or having a conversation or just existing feels like it takes energy you don't have. And you can't explain why. There's no specific reason. It's just there. And then there's the question that haunts you. The one you ask yourself in quiet moments. Is this all there is? Is this it? You look at your life and you think, this should be enough. I should be happy. I should feel something, but you don't. You just feel empty. Just notice right now, as you lie here in the quiet, which of these resonates? Or maybe your emptiness has a completely different quality. Maybe it's something I haven't described. That's okay. There's no right way to experience this, no standard version of the void. What matters is that it's real, that you're feeling it, and that you've probably been feeling it for longer than you want to admit. Months, years, maybe your whole adult life. This persistent sense that something fundamental is absent, and you've been trying to understand it, trying to fix it, trying to make sense of it, and getting nowhere. And that makes it worse, doesn't it? Not only do you feel empty, but you feel like you're failing at understanding your own experience, failing at being able to explain to yourself or anyone else what's actually wrong. Because when people ask how you are, what do you say? You can't very well say, I feel empty, but I don't know why, and I can't explain it, and nothing seems to help. So you say fine. You say good. You say the things people expect to hear, and the gap between what you say and what you feel, that gap just makes the emptiness feel even more isolating. You start to wonder, am I the only one? Is everyone else actually okay? Actually present in their lives? Actually feeling things fully? Or are they also just going through the motions, pretending, carrying their own private emptiness that they also can't explain? Jung would tell you that you're not alone, that this kind of existential emptiness, it's more common than you think. But people don't talk about it. They don't know how to. They don't have the language for it. And so everyone carries it privately, alone, thinking they're the only one. And the suggestions people make when you try to explain it. God. The suggestions. Have you tried gratitude journaling? Maybe you need to exercise more. Have you considered therapy? What are you passionate about? You should travel. You should meditate. You should find your purpose. And you want to scream. I've tried all of that. Don't you think I've tried? But you don't scream. You just nod. You say, yeah, maybe. You pretend their suggestions might help, even though you know they won't. Because they're addressing the wrong thing. They're trying to fill the emptiness from the outside. But the emptiness, it's not that kind of problem. This is what Jung understood. He understood that there's a kind of void that exists at the existential level, at the level of meaning and purpose and connection to something larger than yourself. And this kind of emptiness, it can't be solved with productivity hacks or self-help strategies or any external fix, because what you're experiencing, it's not really emptiness. I mean, I know it feels like emptiness, like nothing, like an absence. But Jung would say it's actually full of potential, full of meaning you haven't accessed yet, full of something your psyche is trying to tell you. The void isn't empty. It just feels that way because you don't yet know how to read it, how to understand what it's communicating, what it's pointing you toward. But we're going to learn over the course of tonight. As you drift toward sleep, we're going to explore what this emptiness might mean, what it might be trying to show you, what Jung discovered about the nature of the void, and why it's not your enemy, even though it feels unbearable sometimes. For now, just breathe. Just let yourself be here with the emptiness. Don't try to fix it. Don't try to fill it. Don't try to explain it. Just acknowledge it. Yes, there's emptiness here. I feel it. I don't understand it, but it's here. That's enough for right now. Just that acknowledgement. Just the willingness to stop running from it long enough to actually be with it, to feel it without immediately trying to make it go away. Let your body relax. Let the bed hold you. Let yourself sink deeper into the quiet, and as you do, just notice the emptiness. Where does it live in your body? Is it in your chest? Your stomach? Is it more diffuse? Everywhere and nowhere? Don't analyze it. Don't try to understand it yet. Just notice it. Feel it. Let it be there. Because here's something Jung understood that most people miss. The emptiness. The void. It's not the problem. The problem is how we relate to it. How we fight it. How we try to fill it with anything we can find. How we make it wrong. How we make ourselves wrong for feeling it. But what if? What if the emptiness is actually a doorway? What if it's trying to show you something? What if it's the psyche's way of saying, something needs attention here. Something needs to shift. Something is calling you toward a different way of being? That's what we're going to explore. But not by forcing it, not by trying to figure it out intellectually, but by being with it, by listening to it, by giving it space to reveal what it actually is instead of what we think it should be. Jung believed the psyche has its own intelligence, its own way of communicating, and that when something like emptiness arises, when the void makes itself known, it's not random, it's not meaningless. It's the psyche trying to get your attention, trying to redirect you, trying to show you something you've been missing. But the psyche doesn't speak in clear sentences. It speaks in feelings, in symbols, in experiences that exist beyond rational understanding, and the emptiness, it's one of those communications. It's the psyche saying something important in the only language it has. And I know that's frustrating. Because you want answers. You want someone to tell you exactly what the emptiness means and exactly what to do about it. You want a clear path, a solution, a way to make it stop. But it doesn't work like that. The psyche doesn't give instruction manuals. It gives you the experience, the feeling, the emptiness itself. And then it asks you to be curious, to explore, to see where it leads without knowing in advance where that will be. This is uncomfortable. This not knowing. This sitting with something you can't explain or fix. This is why most people turn away. Why they distract themselves. Why they fill their lives with busyness and noise and anything that keeps them from having to feel the void. But you're here. You're not turning away. You're willing to sit with this, to be with the emptiness instead of running from it. And that takes more courage than you probably realize. Because it would be so much easier to just turn on a show or scroll your phone or fill your mind with anything else. But you're choosing to be here, to feel this, to explore it. And Jung would say, that choice, that willingness, that's already the beginning of transformation. Not transformation in the sense that the emptiness will suddenly disappear, but transformation in the sense that your relationship to it can change. That you can move from fighting it to being curious about it. From making it wrong to seeing it as meaningful. From feeling victimized by it to recognizing it as a message. And as that relationship shifts, as you stop resisting the emptiness and start listening to it, something changes. Not all at once, but gradually. Over time, the void starts to feel less like an enemy and more like a teacher, a guide, something that's actually trying to help you, even though it doesn't feel that way. But we're not there yet. Tonight, we're just sitting with it, acknowledging it, letting it be here without needing it to be anything other than what it is. Your breath is slow now. Your body is relaxing. Your mind is beginning to quiet. And the emptiness, it's here, present, real. And that's okay. You don't have to fix it tonight. You don't have to understand it. You just have to be with it. Jung spent years working with people who carried this kind of emptiness. People who couldn't explain what they were feeling. People who had tried everything to fill the void and nothing worked. People who thought maybe there was just something fundamentally wrong with them. And what he discovered, what he learned, is that the emptiness isn't a flaw. It's not evidence of dysfunction. It's actually evidence of depth, of sensitivity, of an awareness that goes beyond the surface of things, of a psyche that's asking questions most people never even think to ask. Questions like, what am I here for? What actually matters? Is there more to existence than this? What does it mean to be alive? These aren't small questions. These are the questions that give rise to the void, that create the emptiness when we don't have answers, when we can't find meaning, when we look at our lives and feel disconnected from something essential. And most people never ask these questions. They just go through life, following the script, doing what they're supposed to do, and they might be fine, or they might be carrying their own quiet emptiness and not even recognizing it, not even acknowledging it's there. But you're asking. You're aware. You're feeling the emptiness, And you're not content to just ignore it, to just pretend everything's fine when it's not. And that awareness, that honesty, that's actually a gift, even though it doesn't feel like one. Even though right now it just feels like pain. Jung would say the emptiness is your psyche's way of saying you're ready for something more. You're ready to go deeper. You're ready to explore dimensions of existence that most people never access. But first, you have to be willing to sit in the not knowing, to be with the void, to let it show you what it has to show you. And that's what tonight is. That's what this is. An invitation to stop fighting, to stop trying to fill the emptiness, to stop making it wrong, and instead, to just be with it, to listen to it, to see it as something that might actually be meaningful, important, worth exploring. Let yourself drift now. Let your conscious mind begin to release. Let the deeper parts of your psyche come forward. The parts that understand things your thinking mind doesn't. The parts that speak in feelings and symbols and experiences beyond words. The emptiness is here, but you're here too. And tonight, you're not alone with it. Jung's understanding is here. His wisdom about the nature of the void, about what it means, about what it's trying to communicate. And as you sleep, as you rest, that wisdom will work in you, will help you see the emptiness differently, will help you understand what it might be pointing you toward. For now, just breathe. Just be. Just let yourself feel what you feel, without judgment, without trying to change it, without needing it to be anything other than what it is. The emptiness you cannot explain, it's here. And that's okay. You're okay. Even with the void, even with the not knowing, even with the feeling that something fundamental is missing. You're exactly where you need to be, feeling exactly what you need to feel. And over the course of tonight, as we explore this together, something will shift. Not because we fix the emptiness, but because we learn to be with it differently, to see it differently, to understand it as something other than a problem. Just rest now. Just let yourself be held by the darkness, by the quiet, by the knowing that this emptiness, it's not meaningless, it's not nothing, it's actually trying to show you something important. And we're going to discover what that is, together. As you drift, as you rest, as you let yourself finally stop fighting and just be. Sleep is coming. The conscious mind is fading. And the deeper work begins. The work of understanding, of listening, of seeing what the emptiness has been trying to tell you all along. You're safe. You're here. You're not alone. And the void, the emptiness you cannot explain, it's about to reveal itself as something other than what you thought. Just breathe. Just rest. Just be. Everything else we'll discover together. As you rest here, drifting deeper now, I want to help you understand something about why this emptiness is so hard to explain. Why, when you try to put it into words, the words just, they don't capture it. They don't reach what you're actually feeling. Jung understood this. He understood that there are experiences, psychological experiences, spiritual experiences even, that exist beyond the reach of language, that live in a realm where words just can't go. And the emptiness, this particular kind of void you're feeling, it's one of those experiences. It's not that you're bad at explaining. It's not that you haven't found the right words yet. It's that words themselves are insufficient for what you're experiencing. Because language is designed to describe things, objects, events, concrete realities. But the emptiness you feel, it's not a thing. It's an absence, a void. And how do you describe nothing? How do you explain a feeling that's defined by what's not there rather than what is? You can say, "I feel empty," and people nod. They think they understand, but they don't. They can't, because empty can mean so many things. Empty like a glass that needs filling. Empty like a schedule that needs activities. Empty like a life that needs more friends or hobbies or purpose. But that's not what you mean, is it? You mean something else. Something deeper. Something that exists at a level where adding more things, more people, more activities, more anything, it doesn't touch it, doesn't reach it, doesn't fill it. This is what Jung called the existential void. The emptiness that's not about lacking external things, but about meaning, about connection to something larger than yourself, about a sense that your life is oriented towards something that matters, something real, something true. And when that orientation is missing, when you can't feel that connection, when meaning feels absent or inaccessible or like something other people have but you don't, that's when the void opens up. That's when the emptiness becomes unbearable. Let your breath slow even more now. Let yourself sink deeper into rest. We're going to explore this together. We're going to try to understand what creates this kind of emptiness, not so you can fix it necessarily, but so you can see it more clearly, understand what it's actually about. Because Jung believed, and I think he was right, that we can't work with something we don't understand. We can't transform something we can't see clearly. And right now, the emptiness probably feels like this formless, overwhelming thing that has no shape, no cause, no explanation. But it does have a shape. It does have a cause. Or maybe multiple causes. And understanding them won't make the emptiness disappear instantly. But it might help you feel less lost in it, less confused by it, less alone with it. So let's talk about where this emptiness comes from. What creates it? What feeds it? What makes it so persistent and so resistant to all your attempts to fill it? One thing Jung noticed, one pattern he saw again and again, is that this kind of emptiness often emerges when people are living, when they're living according to someone else's script, following a path that was laid out for them, doing what they're supposed to do rather than what's actually true for them. Maybe you went to college because that's what you were supposed to do, chose a career because it seemed practical or respectable, or because your parents wanted it for you, got married because that's what people your age do, had kids because that's the next step, built a life that from the outside looks fine, looks successful even, but inside there's this growing sense that you're not really living your life. You're living someone else's idea of what your life should be. And somewhere along the way, you lost touch with what you actually want, what you actually value, what actually matters to you, if anything does anymore. And that disconnection, that split between who you're being and who you actually are, Jung would say that's one of the primary sources of existential emptiness, because you can't feel full, you can't feel whole, you can't feel alive when you're not actually living as yourself. You're living as this construct, this persona, this version of you that fits the expectations and meets the standards and does what's appropriate. But the real you, the actual you, it's buried somewhere, unexpressed, unlived, and that creates a void. Or maybe it's not about living someone else's script. Maybe it's about having achieved what you were supposed to achieve and discovering that it didn't. It didn't fill you the way you thought it would, didn't make you feel the way you thought you'd feel. You got the degree, you got the job, you got the relationship or the house or the success or whatever it was you were working toward, and for a moment, for a brief moment, you felt something. Relief, maybe. Pride, a sense of accomplishment. But then the feeling faded. And underneath it, underneath the achievement, the emptiness was still there. Unchanged, untouched. And you thought maybe you just need the next thing, the next goal, the next achievement. And so you keep going, keep striving, keep reaching for something that you hope will finally make you feel full. But it doesn't. It never does. Because you're trying to fill an existential void with external achievements. And Jung understood. He understood that these are different dimensions, different levels of being. And what fills one doesn't touch the other. You can have all the success in the world and still feel empty. Because the emptiness isn't about what you have, it's about who you are, how you're being, what you're connected to, what gives your life meaning beyond just accumulating things or reaching goals. Just notice as you lie here, does any of this resonate? Are you living someone else's script? Are you chasing achievements hoping they'll fill the void? Just notice. No judgment, just awareness. There's another source of this emptiness that Jung identified, and it's harder to name, harder to see, but it's equally important, and that's what he called the unlived life. The parts of yourself that were never expressed, never developed, never allowed to exist. Maybe when you were young you had certain qualities, certain interests, certain ways of being that were discouraged or dismissed or punished, and so you learned to hide them, to suppress them, to cut them off, until eventually you forgot they were even there. Or maybe you had dreams, possibilities you imagined for yourself, paths you wanted to explore, but circumstances, or fear, or responsibility, or just life got in the way. And you set those dreams aside, told yourself maybe later, maybe someday, and someday never came. And now you're living this life. This one particular life out of all the lives you could have lived. And somewhere inside, there's a sense of all those unlived possibilities, all those unexpressed parts of yourself. And they create a kind of absence, a void where something could have been but isn't. This is one of the most painful sources of emptiness, because it's not just about what you don't have, it's about who you're not being, who you could have been but aren't. And that loss, that sense of potential unfulfilled, it creates a grief that's hard to name, hard to explain. Because you can't grieve something that never existed, can you? But you can. You do. You're grieving the unlived life, the unexpressed self. the possibilities that were closed off. And that grief, it manifests as emptiness, as a void where a fuller version of yourself could have existed but doesn't. Jung believed that this is especially common in what he called the second half of life, midlife and beyond, when you start to realize that time is finite, that you're not going to live forever, that some doors are closing, that some possibilities are no longer available. And the question becomes, have I lived the life I was meant to live? Have I become who I was meant to become? Or have I spent my whole life being someone else, living someone else's dreams, following someone else's path? And if the answer feels like no, like you haven't really lived your own life, then the emptiness makes sense, doesn't it? It's not mysterious anymore. It's not inexplicable. It's the natural response to not being yourself, to not living authentically, to having cut off parts of yourself that needed expression. Let your body relax more deeply. Let yourself feel whatever's coming up. If it's grief, let it be here. If it's regret, let that be here too. You don't have to do anything with these feelings. Just let them be. There's another dimension to this emptiness that Jung understood, and it's about meaning, or the absence of meaning. The sense that your life doesn't point toward anything, doesn't serve anything larger than yourself, doesn't matter in any way that feels significant. Modern life, especially modern life, it can be so disconnected from any sense of larger purpose or meaning. You wake up, you go to work, you do your tasks, you come home, you distract yourself with entertainment or social media or whatever helps you not think about the fact that you're just cycling through the same days over and over without any sense of why. And you try to find meaning. You try to tell yourself that your work matters or your relationships matter or you're contributing something valuable. But if you're honest, if you're really honest, it feels hollow. It feels like you're just going through the motions, filling time, existing but not really living for anything that feels genuinely important. Jung would say this is a spiritual crisis, not spiritual in a religious sense necessarily, but spiritual in the sense that you've lost connection to whatever it is that makes life feel meaningful, sacred even, oriented towards something beyond just surviving and getting through each day. And when that connection is lost, when you can't feel that your life points toward anything, when existence feels random and meaningless and empty of purpose, that creates a void that no amount of pleasure or achievement or distraction can fill. Because what you're lacking isn't happiness, it's not satisfaction, it's meaning. And meaning isn't something you can manufacture. It's not something you can think your way into. It's something you have to find, to discover, to connect with, at a level deeper than rational thought. But how do you do that? How do you find meaning when everything feels meaningless? How do you connect to something larger when you don't even know what that something is? This is where most people get stuck. This is where the emptiness becomes unbearable. Because you know something's missing, but you don't know what it is or how to find it. And Jung would say, and this is important, he would say you can't find it by looking outside yourself. You can't find meaning in your job or your relationships or your hobbies or or any external thing. Those things can express meaning. They can be vehicles for meaning. But the meaning itself, it has to come from within, from connection to what he called the self. The self. In Jung's understanding, it's not your ego, not your personality, not the you that you think you are. It's something deeper, something larger, some essential nature that's been there all along, underneath all the conditioning and the roles and the personas you've developed. And when you're connected to the self, when you're living from that place, life has meaning. Not because you've found some grand purpose, but because you're aligned. You're being who you actually are. You're expressing what's real in you. And that alignment, that authenticity, that's what creates the sense of meaning, of being alive in a way that matters. But when you've lost that connection, when you're disconnected from the self, living from the ego, living from the persona, following scripts that aren't yours, then life feels empty because you're not really living. You're performing, you're functioning, but you're not alive in the deepest sense. This is what creates the void, the disconnection from self, the loss of authentic being, the absence of meaning because you're not living from what's real. And here's the thing. Here's what makes this so difficult. You can't think your way back to the self. You can't use the same rational mind that created the disconnection to fix the disconnection. The self doesn't speak in logical arguments or five-step plans. The self speaks in feelings, in symbols, in dreams and intuitions and inexplicable longings. In the emptiness itself, the void is actually the self trying to get your attention, trying to say, something's wrong, you're off course, you've lost connection, come back, come home. But we don't know how to hear that. We don't know how to listen to the self. We're so identified with the thinking mind, with the ego, with the persona, that we interpret the emptiness as a problem to be solved, a deficiency to be filled, something wrong that needs fixing. But Jung would say it's not a problem, it's a message. It's the psyche's way of saying, in the only language it has, that you need to change direction, to stop living from the outside in, to start living from the inside out, to reconnect with what's real in you instead of what's expected of you. And that reconnection, that return to the self, it doesn't happen through effort, through trying harder, through forcing yourself to find meaning or be authentic or any of that. It happens through letting go, through becoming quiet enough to hear what's beneath the noise, through paying attention to what the emptiness itself is trying to show you. Let yourself go deeper now. Let your conscious mind continue to fade. Let the part of you that needs to understand and analyze and figure things out, let it rest. Because tonight, we're working at a different level. The level where the self lives, the level where meaning exists, the level where the emptiness can finally reveal what it's actually about. Your breath is so slow, so soft. Your body is heavy, relaxed, sinking into deep rest. And the emptiness, it's here. But maybe now it feels a little different, a little less like an enemy, a little more like something that's trying to help you, trying to wake you up, trying to redirect you towards something truer. Tomorrow, when you wake, you might not remember all of this consciously, That's okay. The work is happening deeper, at the level of the unconscious, where the self lives, where transformation happens not through understanding but through direct experience, through something shifting at a level beyond words. For now, just rest. Just be. Just let yourself feel the emptiness without needing to fix it or fill it or understand it completely. It's here. You're here. And something's beginning to change in how you relate to it. The void isn't empty. It's full of potential, full of meaning you haven't accessed yet, full of the self trying to reach you, trying to bring you home. Just breathe. Just sink. Just let yourself drift deeper into sleep where the real work happens, where the psyche reorganizes itself, where new understanding emerges not through thought but through something else, something deeper. You're exactly where you need to be, feeling exactly what you need to feel, and the emptiness. It's not your enemy. It's your guide, leading you somewhere you need to go, showing you something you need to see. Just rest now. Just sleep. Just trust that this emptiness, as unbearable as it feels, it's actually meaningful, important, necessary even, for the transformation that's trying to happen. Sleep deeply. Sleep peacefully. Sleep knowing that the void, the emptiness you cannot explain, it's beginning to reveal itself as something other than nothing. Something full, something wise, something that's been waiting all along for you to stop fighting it and start listening. Just sleep, just rest, just be. Everything you need to know. You'll discover as we continue, as you drift, as you let the deeper work unfold, as you drift even deeper now, into that space where consciousness begins to dissolve, where thinking gives way to just being. I want to tell you something else that Jung understood about this emptiness, something that might shift how you see it entirely. He understood that the void, the emptiness you're feeling, it's not actually empty at all. I know that sounds contradictory, but bear with me, because this is one of the most important things Jung discovered about the nature of what we're calling emptiness. What feels like nothing, what feels like absence, what feels like a void where something should be. It's actually full of something you haven't yet learned to recognize, full of potential that hasn't been actualized, full of meaning that hasn't been accessed, full of the unlived parts of yourself waiting to be seen, to be acknowledged, to be integrated. The emptiness isn't empty, it's pregnant. Pregnant with possibility, with transformation, with everything you could become if you stopped trying to fill it from the outside and started paying attention to what's actually there, what's been there all along. This is hard to understand, isn't it? Because when you feel the void, it feels so devoid of anything, so hollow, so absent. How can that be full? How can nothing be something? But Jung would say this is exactly the paradox, the mystery at the heart of psychological and spiritual transformation, that what feels like emptiness is actually the space where new being can emerge. The void is the womb, the darkness before creation, the silence before the word. Let yourself sink deeper. Let your mind become quieter still. We're entering territory now where logic doesn't quite reach, where understanding happens not through thinking but through some other kind of knowing, some direct experience that bypasses rational thought. Think about it this way, or actually, don't think about it. Just feel into it. When you look at your life, when you look at who you've become and what you're doing and how you're being in the world, what's present? The persona, the role you play, the constructed self that meets the world's expectations. That's what's visible. That's what's actualized. That's what's been lived. But what's absent? What's in the emptiness? All the other ways you could have been. All the other paths you could have taken. All the qualities you suppressed. All the desires you denied. All the possibilities you never explored. All of that. It lives in the void. It exists in the emptiness as potential, as what could be but isn't yet. And that's why the emptiness feels so full of longing, so full of ache, because it is full. Full of the unlived life, full of the unexpressed self, full of everything that's waiting to be born but hasn't been. And your psyche knows this. Your soul knows this, even if your conscious mind can't quite grasp it. The emptiness is calling you. It's saying, look here, pay attention here. There's something important here that you've been ignoring. Something that needs to live, needs to be expressed, needs to become actual instead of just potential. But we're taught to fear the void. We're taught that emptiness is bad, that nothing is the opposite of something and therefore, wrong, insufficient, a problem to be solved. So we try to fill it. We throw anything we can find into the emptiness. Achievements, relationships, distractions, addictions, anything to make the void go away, to not have to feel it. But Jung would say this is exactly backwards. The void doesn't need to be filled. It needs to be entered, explored, listened to, allowed to reveal what it's actually holding, what it's trying to show you. This requires something most people aren't willing to do. It requires you to stop running, to stop filling your time and your mind and your life with noise and busyness and anything that keeps you from having to be alone with the emptiness. It requires you to actually sit in the void, to be with it, to listen to it instead of trying to escape it. And that's terrifying, isn't it? Because what if you sit with the emptiness and it swallows you? What if there's nothing there? What if you're wrong about it being full of meaning and it's actually just nothing? What if you disappear into the void? These fears, Jung understood them. He understood that the void is scary precisely because it represents the unknown, the unformed, the dissolution of the self as you know it. And the ego, the conscious you, it's terrified of dissolution, terrified of the unknown, terrified of becoming something other than what it's familiar with. But here's what Jung also understood. The ego has to soften, has to let go of control, has to allow itself to dissolve at least a little bit, for the self to emerge, for transformation to happen, for the unlived life to become lived. And the emptiness, the void, it's the place where that dissolution happens, where the old self loosens its grip, where new being becomes possible. Not because you force it, not because you try to become someone different, but because you stop holding on so tightly to who you think you are and allow the deeper self to come forward, to be seen, to be lived, This is what Jung meant by individuation. It's not about becoming someone new. It's about becoming who you actually are, beneath all the conditioning, beneath all the roles, beneath all the ways you've shaped yourself to fit the world's expectations. And the emptiness, the void. It's the doorway to that process. But you can't think your way through that door. You can't plan it. You can't control it. You have to. You have to surrender to it. Enter it. Let it take you somewhere you haven't been before. Let it show you something about yourself you haven't seen yet. Just breathe. Let yourself go deeper still. Your conscious mind is fading now. And that's good. That's necessary. Because the work we're doing, it happens at a level consciousness can't reach. It happens in the unconscious, in the deeper layers of the psyche, where the self lives, where the unlived life waits, where the emptiness holds everything that needs to emerge. There's a kind of active emptiness that Jung talked about, and it's different from the passive emptiness we usually experience. Passive emptiness is what you feel when you're disconnected, when life feels meaningless, when nothing brings you joy, when you're just going through the motions. That emptiness feels dead, feels like nothing will ever change, feels like you're stuck in the void forever. But active emptiness, it's different. It's the emptiness you feel when you're on the edge of something new, when the old self is dying, but the new self hasn't been born yet, when you're in transition, in the space between who you were and who you're becoming. That emptiness is alive, full of possibility, full of creative potential, even though it's uncomfortable, even though it's uncertain. And maybe what you're feeling is actually active emptiness. Maybe you're in transition even though you don't. You don't know what you're transitioning toward. Maybe the void is making space for something new, clearing out the old patterns, the old identities, the old ways of being that no longer serve you, making room for what wants to emerge. Jung believed that these transitional periods, these times of emptiness and disorientation, they're actually the most important times in a person's life, because they're the times when real transformation is possible, when you can actually become someone different instead of just continuing the same patterns over and over. But they're also the hardest times, the most uncomfortable, the most disorienting, because you don't know where you're going. You don't know what's coming next. All you know is that the old way doesn't work anymore. The old self doesn't fit anymore. And you're in this void, this in-between space, waiting for what? You don't even know. This is where trust becomes important. Trust that the psyche knows what it's doing. Trust that the emptiness has a purpose. Trust that something is trying to be born even though you can't see it yet, can't name it yet, can't understand it yet. And I know that's hard, because trust requires letting go of control. And letting go of control when you're already feeling empty and lost, and disconnected. That feels dangerous. That feels like giving up, like surrendering to the void instead of fighting your way out of it. But Jung would say that surrender is exactly what's needed. Not surrender in the sense of giving up, but surrender in the sense of allowing, of not fighting what is, of not resisting the emptiness, but actually entering it, going into it, letting it take you where it needs to take you. Because here's the thing. Here's what Jung discovered through years of working with people in this state. The emptiness doesn't go away by fighting it. It doesn't go away by filling it with external things. It doesn't go away by trying to think your way out of it. It transforms. It reveals what it's actually holding. When you stop fighting it and start being with it, listening to it, letting it speak. And what does it speak? What does the void have to say when you actually listen? For each person, it's different, because each person's emptiness is holding something unique, something specific to their unlived life, their unexpressed self, their particular path toward wholeness. For some people, the emptiness speaks of creativity that was never expressed, art that was never made, beauty that was never brought into the world. And the void is saying, this needs to live. This needs to be born. Stop hiding this. Stop saying you're not creative enough, or talented enough, or whatever excuse you've been using. This needs to exist. For others, it speaks of relationships that were never risked, love that was never allowed, connection that was never pursued because of fear or past hurt, or the belief that you don't deserve it. And the void is saying, you're allowed to love. You're allowed to be loved. You're allowed to open your heart, even though it's scary, even though you might get hurt. Stop protecting yourself from life and actually live. For others still, the emptiness speaks of a different way of being entirely. A life that doesn't revolve around achievement or productivity or meeting external expectations. A life that's quieter, simpler, more connected to nature or creativity or just being instead of constantly doing. And the void is saying, you're allowed to stop. You're allowed to rest. You're allowed to live differently than everyone expects. What is your emptiness saying? What is it holding for you? What unlived life? What unexpressed part of yourself is waiting in the void to be acknowledged, to be seen, to be given permission to exist? You might not know yet. That's okay. You don't have to know tonight. The answer will reveal itself, not through thinking, not through trying to figure it out, but through paying attention, through listening, through being willing to let the emptiness show you what it's actually about. Let yourself rest in the not knowing for now. Let the emptiness be mysterious. Let it hold its secrets a little longer. Because forcing an answer, trying to make it reveal itself before it's ready, that closes the door again. That pushes the unlived life back into the shadows where it can't be seen. Jung would say, be patient, be curious, be willing to sit in the uncertainty, in the void, without needing to solve it immediately, without needing to fix it or fill it or understand it completely. Just be with it. Let it unfold in its own time, in its own way. Your breath is barely perceptible now. Your body is so deeply relaxed. Your mind is fading into sleep. And in this state, in this deep rest, the unconscious becomes active. The self begins to speak. The emptiness begins to reveal what it's been holding all along. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to make anything happen. Just rest. Just allow. Just trust that your psyche knows what it's doing. That the emptiness isn't empty at all. That it's full of exactly what you need, even though you can't see it yet. Tomorrow you might wake up and still feel empty. That's okay. This isn't about making the emptiness disappear. This is about changing your relationship to it. About seeing it as meaningful instead of meaningless. About recognizing it as a message instead of a problem. About understanding that it's full instead of empty. And that shift, that change in how you see it, that's what makes transformation possible. That's what allows the unlived life to start emerging. That's what creates space for the self to come forward, for who you actually are to finally be lived instead of just potential in the void. Sleep now, deep sleep, where the conscious mind releases completely, where the ego loosens its grip, where the self can do its work without interference, without resistance, without the thinking mind trying to control everything. The emptiness is holding you, not as nothing, but as everything you haven't yet become, everything that's waiting, everything that's possible. Just rest. Just sleep. Just let the void reveal itself as the womb of new being, the space where transformation happens, the fullness that feels like emptiness until you learn to see it differently. You're safe. You're held. You're exactly where you need to be. And the emptiness, the void, it's not your enemy. It's your teacher, your guide, leading you home to yourself, to the self, to the life that's waiting to be lived. Just sleep, just rest, just trust. Everything is unfolding perfectly. Everything is exactly as it needs to be. And the emptiness, it's about to reveal itself as something you never expected, something beautiful, something full, as you rest in this deep quiet now. As your consciousness dissolves more and more into sleep, I want to share something with you that Jung discovered, something about what happens when you actually stop fighting the emptiness, when you stop trying to fill it and instead, let yourself be with it. Really be with it. He found that the emptiness, when you're willing to stay with it, when you're willing to feel it fully without running away, it begins to speak, to reveal things, to show you aspects of yourself and your life that you couldn't see before, that were hidden beneath all the noise, all the distraction, all the constant doing and achieving and trying to be okay. The void becomes a kind of mirror. Or maybe not a mirror exactly. Maybe more like a space where truth can finally be seen. Where what's real becomes visible because everything else has fallen away. Everything superficial, everything constructed, everything you've been using to avoid looking at what's actually there, and what's there. What the emptiness reveals when you stop running from it. It's not always comfortable, not always what you want to see. But it's true. And Jung believed that truth, even difficult truth, is always more valuable than comfortable illusion. Than pleasant lies we tell ourselves to avoid discomfort. Let your breath be soft. Let yourself sink deeper. We're going to explore what the emptiness might be trying to show you, what it might be trying to reveal. And I want you to just listen, just notice. You don't have to do anything with what comes up. You don't have to fix anything. Just witness, just allow. Sometimes, the emptiness reveals that you've been living a life that isn't yours, that the path you're on, the person you've become, the choices you've made, they weren't really your choices, not deep down, not from the self. They were choices made from fear or obligation or the need to be acceptable, to be loved, to be safe. And the emptiness, it's the part of you that knows this, that feels the inauthenticity, that aches with the knowledge that you're not really living, not really being yourself, just performing, just going through the motions of someone else's idea of what your life should be. This is painful to see, painful to acknowledge, because if it's true, if you've spent years or decades living inauthentically, what does that mean? How do you change it? Is it too late? Have you wasted your life? But Jung would say, and this is important, he would say it's never too late, that the psyche is always trying to move toward wholeness, toward authenticity, toward the self, and the emptiness, the void you're feeling. It's part of that movement. It's the psyche saying, wake up, see clearly. It's not too late to change direction. It's not too late to start living from what's true in you instead of what's expected of you. Just notice if this resonates. If there's something in you that knows, that has always known, that you're not really living your life. Just notice. Don't judge. Don't make it wrong. Just see it. Sometimes the emptiness reveals that you've been running, that you've filled your life with so much activity, so much noise, so much distraction, because you're afraid of what? Of being alone with yourself, of feeling what you actually feel, of facing truths you don't want to face, of admitting things you don't want to admit. And the emptiness, when it finally catches up to you, when you can't run anymore, when all the distractions stop working, it forces you to stop, to be still, to be alone with yourself, maybe for the first time in years, maybe in your whole life. And that's terrifying. Because when you stop running, when you stop filling every moment with something, anything, what's there? What do you find when you're just alone with yourself in the quiet? For many people, what they find is grief. Grief they've been avoiding. Grief for losses they never processed. For relationships that ended. For versions of themselves that died. For dreams that didn't come true. For time that passed. For youth that's gone. For possibilities that closed. And the emptiness, it holds all that grief, all that loss, and it's saying, feel this. Stop avoiding this. This needs to be felt, needs to be acknowledged, needs to move through you instead of staying locked inside, creating this void, this persistent ache that nothing can touch. Or maybe what you find isn't grief. Maybe it's anger. Anger you've been swallowing for years. Anger at how you've been treated, at opportunities you didn't get, at injustices you experienced, at people who hurt you, at yourself for choices you made or didn't make, for ways you betrayed yourself, for times you stayed when you should have left, or left when you should have stayed. And the emptiness holds that too. That rage that has nowhere to go. That anger that feels too dangerous to express. Too big to feel. Too overwhelming to acknowledge. So you push it down. You compress it. And it becomes this void. This absence where vital energy should be but can't be because it's all tied up in unexpressed anger. Or maybe what the emptiness is holding is longing, a deep, aching longing for what? For connection maybe, for love, for intimacy, for being seen and known and accepted as you actually are instead of as who you pretend to be, or longing for meaning, for purpose, for work that matters, for contribution, for feeling like your life is oriented toward something larger than yourself, something that gives it significance beyond just getting through each day, or longing for freedom, for spaciousness, for time that's your own, for life that's not so scheduled and controlled and demanded of you, for the ability to just be, without constantly having to do or achieve or prove or produce, What is your emptiness holding? What have you been avoiding feeling? What needs to be acknowledged, felt, released? Just notice. Just let yourself be curious about this instead of afraid of it. The emptiness isn't holding these feelings to punish you. It's holding them because they need attention. They need to be felt and processed and integrated instead of avoided and suppressed and pushed into the void. Jung understood that unfelt feelings don't disappear. They don't go away just because you refuse to feel them. They go into the unconscious, into the shadow, into the emptiness, and they create symptoms. They create the persistent void, the ache, the sense that something's fundamentally wrong even when your life looks fine from the outside. But when you're willing to feel them, when you're willing to be with the grief or the anger or the longing or whatever's actually there in the emptiness, something shifts. Not immediately, not all at once, but gradually the void begins to fill. Not with external things, not with achievements or relationships or distractions, but with your own presence, with your own aliveness, with the energy that was tied up in avoiding these feelings finally being available to you again. This is what Jung meant by integration. It's not about getting rid of difficult feelings. It's about allowing them, being with them, letting them move through you. And in that allowing, in that being with what is, the psyche becomes more whole, more complete, more alive. Let yourself go even deeper now. Let sleep come closer. Your conscious mind is almost completely quiet, and in this state, in this deep rest, the unconscious can do its work, can bring to the surface what needs to be seen, what needs to be felt, what needs to finally be acknowledged after all this time. There's another thing the emptiness sometimes reveals, and it's about your relationship with yourself, how you treat yourself, how you talk to yourself, how you judge yourself, criticize yourself, reject yourself. For so many people, the emptiness is partly a result of self-abandonment, of spending so much time and energy trying to be who others want you to be, trying to meet external expectations, trying to be acceptable or lovable or successful or whatever, that you completely abandoned yourself in the process. You stopped paying attention to what you actually need, what you actually feel, what you actually want, what's actually true for you, and the emptiness. It's the void where your relationship with yourself should be, where self-love should be, where self-care and self-compassion and just basic kindness toward yourself should be. But instead there's just nothing, or worse than nothing. There's harsh judgment, constant criticism, a voice that tells you you're not good enough, not trying hard enough, not achieving enough, not being enough. And you wonder why you feel empty. You wonder why nothing fills you. But how can you feel full when you're at war with yourself? When you're constantly rejecting yourself, judging yourself, treating yourself like an enemy instead of a friend, a companion, someone worthy of kindness and care. Jung would say that the relationship with the self, with yourself, it's the most important relationship you'll ever have, more important than any external relationship, because it's the foundation. It's what everything else is built on. And if that foundation is hostile, if you can't be kind to yourself, if you can't accept yourself, how can anything else feel okay? How can life feel anything other than empty? So part of what the emptiness might be showing you is this: that you need to come home to yourself, that you need to stop abandoning yourself in favor of others' needs and expectations, that you need to develop a relationship with yourself that's based on compassion instead of criticism, on acceptance instead of rejection, on kindness instead of harshness. And that's hard, because you've probably been taught that being hard on yourself is necessary. That self-criticism drives improvement, that if you're too kind to yourself, you'll become lazy or complacent or whatever. But Jung understood. He understood that the opposite is true. That harshness creates resistance, creates disconnection, creates the very emptiness you're trying to escape. But kindness, compassion, acceptance of yourself as you actually are, flaws and all, mistakes and all, humanness and all, that creates connection. That fills the void. Not with external achievements, but with your own presence, your own warmth toward yourself, your own willingness to be on your own side instead of against yourself. Just breathe. Just let this sink in. You don't have to change everything tonight. You don't have to suddenly become perfect at self-compassion. Just notice. Notice how you talk to yourself. Notice how you treat yourself. Notice if maybe part of the emptiness is the absence of your own kindness toward yourself, your own acceptance, your own love. And maybe starting to fill that void means learning to be gentler with yourself. Learning to talk to yourself the way you'd talk to someone you care about. Learning to accept that you're human and humans are imperfect and struggling and doing the best they can, even when the best they can doesn't feel like enough. This is tender work, vulnerable work, because it means feeling things you've been avoiding, seeing things you've been denying, acknowledging truths you've been running from. But it's also the only work that actually transforms the emptiness, that allows it to reveal itself as not empty, as actually full of meaning and potential, and your own unlived aliveness waiting to be accessed. Jung believed that the emptiness, the void, it's not the end, it's the beginning. It's the space where transformation becomes possible, where new being can emerge, where you can finally stop living from the outside in and start living from the inside out. But to get there, to access that transformation, you have to be willing to stay with the emptiness instead of running, to feel what it's holding instead of avoiding, to see what it's revealing instead of denying, to sit in the void long enough for it to show you what it actually is, what it's actually about, what it's trying to give you. And tonight, as you sleep, as your conscious mind completely releases, your unconscious is doing exactly that. It's sitting with the emptiness. It's listening to what it has to say. It's allowing it to reveal what needs to be seen, what needs to be felt, what needs to finally be acknowledged and integrated. You don't have to force this. You don't have to try to make it happen. It's happening on its own, at a level deeper than conscious thought, in the place where the self lives, where transformation occurs not through effort but through surrender, through allowing, through being willing to let the psyche do its work. Sleep deeply now. Let consciousness fade completely. Let the emptiness hold you, not as nothing, but as the space where everything that needs to happen is already beginning, already unfolding, already transforming you in ways you can't yet see but will understand when you're ready. The void is full. The emptiness is speaking, and you're finally listening, finally allowing, finally open to what it has to show you. Just rest. Just sleep. Just trust that this emptiness, as difficult as it's been, it's actually the doorway to everything you've been looking for, everything you've been longing for, everything that's been missing. Sleep now, deep, deep, knowing that you're not empty. You've never been empty. You've just been disconnected from what's full in you. And that connection, that return, it's beginning right now, as you rest, as you allow, as you trust. And maybe what's happening now, as you lie here in the dark, is that something is shifting, not dramatically, not all at once, but shifting. The emptiness, it's still there, but I don't know. Maybe it feels different. Slightly. Like you're not fighting it anymore. Or you're fighting it less. You're just here with it. And Jung would say, this is where the real work begins. When you stop fighting, when you stop trying to fill the void, when you just allow it to be what it is. Because the emptiness, it changes when you stop resisting it. It's still emptiness, but it becomes something you can live with. Something that's part of you, not something that's destroying you. Does that make sense? I think what happens is that the emptiness starts to feel less like a problem and more like a presence, just there. Not good, not bad, just present. And when emptiness becomes a presence instead of a problem, you can breathe again. You can exist without constantly trying to fix yourself. Because you're not broken. You never were. The emptiness isn't proof that something's wrong with you. It's just part of being human, part of being alive, part of having a psyche that's trying to grow, trying to individuate, trying to become whole. Jung spent his whole life, his whole life, helping people understand that the uncomfortable things, the dark things, the empty things, they're not the enemy. They're messengers. And the emptiness, it's been trying to tell you something. Maybe it's been saying, slow down. Maybe it's been saying, this isn't your life. Maybe it's been saying, you've abandoned yourself. Come back. Maybe it's been saying, grieve what you've lost. Maybe it's been saying, you're more than what they told you you could be. Whatever it's been saying, you're starting to hear it now. Not intellectually, but deeper than that. In your body, in your bones, in that quiet place inside you that just knows. And as you hear it, as you really hear it, the emptiness starts to, I don't want to say go away, because it doesn't go away, but it transforms. It becomes spaciousness. It becomes possibility. It becomes freedom. Because when you're not constantly running from the void, when you're not desperately trying to fill it with things that don't fit, you have space. Space to breathe. Space to think. Space to feel. Space to be. And that space, that's where the self lives. That's where you, the real you, the you beneath all the conditioning and the roles and the expectations, that's where you get to exist. In the spaciousness, In the emptiness that's not really empty at all. Jung called this the transcendent function, the psyche's natural ability to integrate opposites, to hold contradictions, to transform suffering into wisdom. And you don't have to do anything to make it happen. It's happening now, as you sleep, as you rest, as you stop trying so hard. Your unconscious, it knows what to do. It's been waiting for you to get out of the way, for you to stop forcing, for you to just allow. And now you're allowing. You're letting the emptiness be what it is. And in that allowing, something new is emerging. I can't tell you what it is, because it's different for everyone. For some people, it's a new sense of purpose, something they've never considered before. For some, it's the courage to leave what's not working, to walk away from the script they've been following. For some, it's reconnection with parts of themselves they abandoned years ago, decades ago. For some, it's just peace, finally, after so long. For some, it's the ability to grieve what they've lost, and then, eventually, to let it go. Whatever it is for you, it's already beginning. You might not see it yet. You might not feel it yet. But it's there, moving beneath the surface, like roots growing in dark soil. And one day, maybe soon, maybe later, you'll notice that the emptiness doesn't scare you as much. You'll notice that you can sit with it without needing to numb it or fix it or explain it. You'll notice that some days it's just there, and you go about your life anyway. You'll notice that it comes and goes, like weather, and you're learning to live with all the seasons. You'll notice that you're different somehow, in ways you can't quite name, but you know it's true. And that's individuation. That's the process Jung spent his life describing, the journey from who you think you're supposed to be to who you actually are, from the persona to the self, from the life you inherited to the life you choose, from the emptiness that terrifies you to the emptiness that holds you. It's not a straight line. It's not neat or predictable or comfortable. It's messy and slow. And sometimes it feels like you're going backwards, but you're not. You're going deeper into yourself, into the truth, into the life that's been waiting for you all along. And the emptiness you've been running from, or trying to understand, or trying to fill. The emptiness is part of that journey. It's not the end, it's the beginning of something real, something true, something yours. Let me tell you about something Jung wrote in one of his later works. When he was older, when he'd spent decades sitting with people's pain, their emptiness, their confusion, he wrote about the second half of life. He said, the first half of life, it's about building, achieving, establishing yourself in the world, creating a persona, becoming someone, and that's necessary. That's important. But the second half of life, if you're willing to do the work, it's about something different. It's about dismantling what's false, discovering what's true, integrating what you've rejected, becoming whole instead of perfect. And for a lot of people, the emptiness, it shows up right at that transition, right when you're supposed to start letting go of who you thought you were and discovering who you actually are. The emptiness is, it's the psyche's way of saying, okay, the first half is over. What you built, it served its purpose. But it's not enough anymore. It's time for something deeper. And that's terrifying. Because what if you let go of who you've been and there's nothing underneath? What if you dismantle the life you built and you can't build anything new? What if the emptiness is all there is? But Jung would say, no, the emptiness is not all there is. The emptiness is the space where the new life begins. It's the fertile void, the womb, the darkness before creation. And you have to trust it. You have to trust that when you stop clinging to what's not working, when you stop forcing, when you stop pretending, something real can emerge. It won't look like what you expected. It won't be what you planned, but it will be true. And truth, even uncomfortable truth, is more nourishing than the most beautiful lie. So, as you lie here, in this darkness, with this emptiness, you're not doing nothing. You're not failing. You're not broken. You're transforming, slowly, quietly, in ways you can't see yet. You're becoming someone new, someone who can hold emptiness without falling apart, someone who can sit with not knowing without panicking, someone who can live with uncertainty and still choose meaning, someone who doesn't need everything to be full, or fixed, or explained, to know they're okay. That person, that's who you're becoming. And the journey from here to there, it's not about fixing the emptiness. It's about learning to live with the void and the fullness and everything in between. Learning to live from the self instead of from the ego's need for control. Learning to live in truth, even when truth is uncomfortable. Learning to live as yourself, not as who they needed you to be. Jung believed deeply that this was possible for everyone. Not easy, but possible. And he believed that the psyche, your psyche, has everything it needs to make this journey. You don't need to be fixed by someone else. You don't need to find the perfect answer. You don't need to become someone different. You just need to allow what's already happening inside you to unfold. You need to trust that the emptiness knows what it's doing. You need to listen to what it's trying to tell you. And you need to be patient with the process, with yourself, with the slow transformation that happens when you stop forcing. Because it is slow. It's frustratingly slow sometimes. You'll have days where you think, nothing's changing. I'm still empty, still lost, still stuck. And then, maybe weeks later, maybe months later, you'll look back and realize, oh, something did change. I see things differently now. I feel things I couldn't feel before. I'm making choices I couldn't make then. I'm becoming someone I didn't know I could be. And that's the gift. Not the absence of emptiness, but the capacity to hold it, to live with it, to let it teach you without letting it destroy you. That's the gift. Let's talk about what this looks like in practice, in your actual life. Because this isn't just philosophy or theory or something that sounds nice but doesn't change anything. This is real. When you stop running from the emptiness, when you start listening to it, things change. Maybe you start saying no to things that drain you, even when people don't understand. Maybe you start pursuing something you've always wanted to try, even though it seems impractical. Maybe you end a relationship that's been dead for years because you finally have the strength to face the truth. Maybe you let yourself grieve, really grieve, something you lost long ago and never gave yourself permission to mourn. Maybe you start creating again, writing, painting, making music, whatever it is, because the emptiness has made space for it. Maybe you just rest more because you realize you've been running yourself into the ground, trying to outrun a feeling that was never going to disappear. Whatever it is, it's yours. Your life, your choices, your path. Not the path they told you to follow. Not the life they said you should want. Yours. And the emptiness. As painful as it's been, as confusing as it's been showing you what's not yours, so you can find what is. It's been clearing out the borrowed dreams, the inherited expectations, the roles you never chose. It's been making space for you, the real you, the one who's been waiting underneath everything to finally breathe. And maybe, just maybe, that's why you're here tonight. Maybe the emptiness brought you here because some part of you, some deep part, knew that you needed to stop. Stop running. Stop fixing. Stop pretending. Just stop and be with it. Be with the emptiness and let it do what it needs to do. Let it hollow you out so you can be filled with something real. Let it strip away what's false so truth can emerge. Let it break you open so you can finally be whole. It's not comfortable, but it's necessary. Jung called it the dark night of the soul, the necessary descent, the journey through the underworld. Every transformation, every real change requires it. You can't become new without letting go of the old. You can't discover who you are without releasing who you're not. You can't find meaning without sitting with meaninglessness. And you can't fill the emptiness with distractions or achievements or other people. You can only be with it until it transforms, until it becomes spaciousness, until it becomes freedom, until it becomes the ground you stand on instead of the void you're falling into. And as you lie here tonight, in this moment, you're doing that work, not by trying, not by forcing, just by being here with the emptiness, with yourself, with the truth of what is. And that's enough. That's more than enough, because the psyche, it responds to presence, not to effort. It responds to acceptance, not to control. It responds to truth, not to pretending. And right now, you're being present. You're accepting what is. You're telling the truth to yourself about what you feel. And that's the work. That's all the work there is. Everything else happens naturally. When you do that, the unconscious takes over. The self begins to emerge. The transformation unfolds in its own time, in its own way. You don't have to manage it. You don't have to understand it. You just have to let it happen. And it is happening right now, as you rest, as you breathe, as you let yourself be held by this darkness, the emptiness you've been carrying. It's doing its work. It's dissolving what needs to dissolve. It's revealing what needs to be seen. It's making space for what's trying to emerge. And you're right where you need to be. Not ahead, not behind, not anywhere else. Here, in this moment, with this feeling, with yourself. And that's everything. Some of you, listening to this, you're wondering, how long? How long will the emptiness last? How long until I feel normal again? How long until something fills this void? And I wish I could give you a timeline, a guarantee, a promise that it ends on a specific day. But Jung would say, the question itself, it's coming from the wrong place. It's coming from the part of you that still thinks the emptiness is the problem that needs to be solved, instead of the teacher that needs to be heard. Because the truth is, the emptiness doesn't have an expiration date. It doesn't follow a schedule. It lasts as long as it needs to last, to teach you what it came to teach. For some people, that's weeks. For some, months. For some, it comes and goes for years, in waves, in cycles, in seasons. And the goal isn't to make it go away. The goal is to change your relationship to it, so that when it comes, you can say, "Oh, you're here. I know you," instead of, "Oh no, not again. I thought I was done with this." You learn to greet it like an old friend who shows up uninvited, but always has something important to say. You learn to listen instead of run. You learn to trust that it's here for a reason. And when you do that, when you stop fighting it, it doesn't control you anymore. It's just part of your experience, part of your landscape, part of being alive. And some days, it's intense, and you feel it deeply. And some days, it's quiet, barely there at all. And some days, you forget about it entirely, because you're engaged in your life, in what matters. And that's okay. All of it is okay, because you're learning that you can hold it all. The emptiness and the fullness, the grief and the joy, the uncertainty and the meaning. You can hold it all without falling apart. And that capacity to hold contradictions, to live with paradox, to be comfortable with not knowing, that's what Jung called psychological maturity. That's what it means to be individuated, not perfect, not fixed, not always happy, but whole, able to hold all of it, all of you, without rejecting the parts that are uncomfortable. And the emptiness is teaching you that. It's teaching you how to be with what is, instead of constantly wishing for what isn't. It's teaching you how to find meaning, not in having all the answers, but in living the questions. It's teaching you how to be yourself, fully, completely, even when yourself includes emptiness and confusion and not knowing. That's the lesson. And you're learning it. Slowly, imperfectly, but you're learning it. And as you learn, you change. You become someone who can sit with silence, someone who can tolerate uncertainty, someone who doesn't need everything to make sense, to know they're okay, someone who can live from truth instead of from fear. And that's freedom. Not the absence of emptiness, but the freedom to be yourself with the emptiness, and despite the emptiness, and because of the emptiness, all at once. Now, let yourself rest deeper. As I tell you this, the work you're doing tonight, lying here, listening, being with this feeling, this is real work. It's not passive. It's not doing nothing. You're actively allowing. You're actively being present. You're actively choosing not to run. And that takes courage. More courage than most people realize. Because running, distracting, numbing, those are easier. Being present with emptiness, with pain, with truth, that's hard, but you're doing it. And I want you to know that matters. It matters that you're here. It matters that you're listening. It matters that you're willing to be with this instead of running from it. Because every moment you choose presence over avoidance, you're changing. You're rewiring your brain. Literally, you're creating new neural pathways that make it easier. Next time, to be with what is, you're teaching your nervous system that it's safe to feel, to be, to exist, without constantly defending or performing or pretending. You're showing yourself that you can hold this, that the emptiness won't destroy you, that you're stronger than you thought. And all of that is happening right now. As you rest, as you breathe, as you let this darkness hold you, you're unconscious. It's doing the integration work. It's taking everything you've heard tonight, everything you've felt, everything you've been carrying, and it's weaving it together into something new. You don't have to try. You don't have to figure it out. You just have to be here and let it happen. Trust that your psyche knows what it's doing. Trust that the emptiness has wisdom. Trust that you're exactly where you need to be. And as you trust, as you rest, as you allow, something shifts. Not all at once, not in a way you'll notice immediately, but slowly, quietly, deep in the places where words don't reach. You're changing, you're becoming, you're transforming. From someone who's terrified of emptiness to someone who can hold it. From someone who's running from themselves to someone who's coming home. From someone who's lost to someone who's finding their way. And the journey, it's not over. It's just beginning. But you're on the path now. And that's what matters. You're on the path. And the emptiness that brought you here, it's walking with you, not as your enemy, as your guide, leading you towards something real, something true, something yours. Let yourself sink deeper now, deeper into rest, deeper into sleep, deeper into trust that you're held, that you're safe, that the emptiness, it's not a mistake. It's not a failure. It's not proof that something's wrong. It's just part of your journey, part of your becoming, part of you, and you can hold it. You are holding it right now, as you rest, as you breathe, as you let go of trying to fix it, or fill it, or explain it. You're just being with it. And that's enough. More than enough. That's everything. Rest now. Rest deeply. Let the emptiness be what it is. Let yourself be who you are. Let the transformation unfold in its own time. You don't have to do anything. You've done enough. You are enough. Just rest. And as you rest, know this. The emptiness you feel, it's not the end of your story. It's the beginning of something real, something true, something worth waiting for. Rest. Just rest. And here you are, still here, still breathing, with this emptiness that you thought might destroy you. But it hasn't. You're still here. And maybe that's the first thing to notice. You're still here. The emptiness didn't consume you, didn't erase you, didn't make you disappear. You're still you, just carrying something heavy, something hard to name, something that's been asking for your attention. And tonight, you gave it that attention. You didn't run. You didn't distract. You didn't pretend it wasn't there. You just listened. And that changes everything. Because when you listen to the emptiness, instead of running from it, you discover something. You discover it's not what you thought it was. It's not meaningless. It's not punishment. It's not proof that you're broken. It's communication from the deepest part of you to the part of you that's been too busy, too scared, too distracted to hear. And now you've heard it. Maybe you don't fully understand it yet. Maybe it's still confusing, still unclear, but you've heard it. And that's the beginning of coming home to yourself. Jung believed, and I think he was right, that most of us, we spend our lives running from ourselves. We run toward things, achievements, relationships, distractions, anything that makes us feel less empty. But we're actually running away from the one person we can never escape, ourselves. And the emptiness is what happens when we run so far that we lose ourselves completely, when we've lived someone else's life for so long that we don't even know who we are anymore. The emptiness is the absence of you, not the absence of stuff or people or success. the absence of your true self from your own life. And the only way back, the only way to fill that particular emptiness, is to stop running, to turn around, to come back to yourself, to the person you were before the world told you who to be, to the parts of you had to hide or reject or forget in order to survive, to the dreams you abandoned, the feelings you couldn't afford to feel, the truth you weren't allowed to speak. That's where you are all of you, every part, waiting in the emptiness, not gone, just hidden. And as you stop running, as you turn toward the void instead of away from it, you start to find pieces of yourself you thought were lost, a desire you'd forgotten, a strength you didn't know you had, a softness you weren't allowed to show, a wildness you had to tame, a voice you learned to silence. They're all there, in the emptiness, waiting for you to come back. And you are coming back, slowly, carefully, but you're coming back. And the emptiness, it's making space for that return. It's clearing out everything that isn't you, so you have room to be yourself again, maybe for the first time. Really yourself, not the version they needed, not the role you were assigned, not the person you became to be loved or accepted or safe, just you, whole, complicated, contradictory, imperfect, real, you. And that's what Jung meant when he talked about individuation, becoming who you actually are, not who you wish you were, not who you think you should be, who you actually are, with the emptiness and the fullness and everything in between. All of it, yours, all of it, you. Now, I want to tell you something. Before you drift off completely, the work you've done tonight, just by being here, just by listening, just by being willing to sit with this feeling, it matters more than you know, because most people, they spend their entire lives running from this, running from the emptiness, from the void, from the truth of what they're feeling, and they never get to the other side. They never discover that the emptiness isn't the end, it's the beginning. They never find the parts of themselves that were hidden in the dark. They never come home. But you're doing something different. You're choosing to be present, to be honest, to be real, even when it's hard, even when it hurts, even when you don't understand. You're choosing to be with yourself. And that takes so much courage, more courage than the world will ever give you credit for. But I see it, and somewhere deep inside you feel it. You feel that you're doing something important, something necessary, something that's going to change your life. Even if you can't see how yet, even if it doesn't feel like progress, you know, on some level, that this matters. And it does. It really does. So, as you rest now, as you let yourself drift, I want you to carry this with you. You are not broken. The emptiness is not proof that something's wrong with you. You are in the middle of a transformation, from who you were to who you're becoming. And transformations, they're rarely comfortable. They require a kind of death, a letting go, a loss of what was, before the new thing can emerge. And that's what the emptiness is. The space between who you were and who you're becoming. The void that holds both the ending and the beginning. And you're learning to live in that space, to be comfortable with not knowing, with uncertainty, with the in-between. That's hard, but it's also where all the real growth happens. Not in certainty, not in control, not in having all the answers, in the emptiness, in the void, in the willingness to not know and to keep going anyway. That's where you become more than you were. That's where you discover capacities you didn't know you had. That's where you meet the self, the part of you that's been waiting your whole life to be found, and you're finding it. Not all at once, not in some dramatic moment of enlightenment, but slowly, quietly, in moments like this, when you choose to be present instead of running, when you choose to listen instead of numbing, when you choose yourself, even when yourself includes emptiness. Those moments, they add up. They create a different life, a life where you're not constantly running or hiding or pretending, a life where you can just be with all of it, the good, the bad, the empty, the full, all of it. And that life, it's closer than you think. You're already living it in small ways. Every time you choose presence over avoidance, every time you tell the truth to yourself about what you're feeling, every time you honor what's real instead of what's comfortable, you're living it. And it's going to get easier. Not because the emptiness goes away, but because you get better at being with it. You develop a kind of trust in yourself, in the process, in the psyche's wisdom. You learn that you can hold more than you thought. You discover that the emptiness, it's not as scary as you thought once you stop fighting it. And eventually, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually, you'll have a moment where you realize, oh, I'm okay. Not because everything's perfect, not because I'm not empty anymore, but just, I'm okay. I can live with this. I can be myself with this. I can find meaning with this. And when you have that moment, you'll understand everything you've been through, all the pain, all the confusion, all the emptiness. It was leading you here, to this place where you can finally be yourself, where you don't need to be anything other than what you are, where the emptiness is just part of your landscape, not the whole story. That's what's waiting for you. Not perfection, not the absence of struggle, just wholeness, the ability to hold all of yourself without rejecting the parts that are uncomfortable. And you're on your way. You really are. Let me share with you one more thing that Jung wrote near the end of his life. He said, Something like, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. And I think that's what the emptiness asks of us. Complete acceptance, not of some idealized version of ourselves, not of who we wish we were, but of who we actually are, with the emptiness, with the confusion, with the parts we're ashamed of, with the needs we have, with the grief we carry. All of it. Complete acceptance. And that is terrifying, because when you accept yourself completely, you have to let go of the fantasy that someday, if you just try hard enough, you'll become someone different, someone better, someone who doesn't feel this way. You have to accept, this is it. This is you. This is your life. Not the life you thought you'd have, not the person you thought you'd be. This and that. That can feel like loss. It can feel like giving up. But it's not. It's the opposite. It's waking up to reality, to truth, to what is. And in that waking up, you find freedom. Because when you stop fighting what is, when you stop trying to be someone you're not, when you stop running from yourself, you get to rest. Finally, you get to just be. And that's what you're learning tonight. How to be with the emptiness. How to be with yourself. How to be without needing everything to be different. It's a practice, not a destination. You'll have to learn it over and over, in different ways, at different times. But each time you do, it gets a little easier, a little more natural, until one day, it's just how you live, present, accepting, real, with yourself, with the emptiness, with life as it is, not as you wish it were. And that's peace. Not the absence of difficulty, but the presence of acceptance. The ability to be with what is, without constantly wishing for what isn't. That's what the emptiness is teaching you, and you're learning. Slowly, imperfectly, but you're learning. Now, before you drift into deeper sleep, I want to say something. If this meditation has reached you, if something here resonated, if you felt less alone in your emptiness, even for a moment, I'd love to hear from you. In the comments below, you can share whatever feels right. Just a word, a phrase, how you're feeling, what this brought up for you. You don't have to explain. You don't have to make sense. Just, if you want to, you can share. And know that by sharing, you're helping someone else feel less alone too. Because the emptiness, it's so isolating. When you think you're the only one, but you're not. So many of us, we're walking around, carrying this feeling, thinking we're the only ones who feel this way. And we're not. We're all trying to make sense of it, trying to live with it, trying to find our way. And sometimes, just knowing that other people understand, that helps. So if you feel moved to share something, I'd be honored to read it. And if you've found value in this, if you want more meditations like this, deeper explorations of what it means to be human, to struggle, to transform. Consider subscribing. I create these meditations weekly, each one exploring something real, something difficult, something most people don't talk about. And I do it because I believe that we need spaces where we can be honest about what we're feeling, where we don't have to pretend we're fine when we're not, where the emptiness and the confusion and the pain are all welcome. So if that resonates with you, I'd love to have you here on this journey, but only if it feels right. No pressure, no obligation, just an invitation to keep exploring together what it means to be yourself in a world that's constantly asking you to be someone else. All right, now, let yourself go. Let yourself drift deeper into rest, into sleep, into the darkness that holds you. You've done enough for tonight. You've listened, you've been present, you've honored what's real. That's all you need to do. The rest, the transformation, the integration, the healing, that's happening without your effort. As you sleep, you're unconscious. It's taking everything and weaving it into something new. You don't have to manage it. You don't have to understand it. You just have to rest and trust that you're held, that you're safe, that the emptiness, it's not destroying you. It's transforming you into someone who can hold more, be more, live more than you ever thought possible. Rest now. Let go. Let the emptiness be what it is. Let yourself be who you are. Let the night hold you in its vast, quiet darkness. You are safe here. You are held. You are exactly where you need to be. Breathe slowly, deeply. Let each breath release a little more of the tension, the trying, the fear. Just breathing, just being, just here. The emptiness, it's not your enemy. It never was. It was always just space. Space for you to return to yourself. Space for truth to emerge. Space for transformation to unfold. And you're in that space now, resting in the void, in the unknown, in the mystery. And it's okay. You're okay. Everything is okay. Let yourself drift now, deeper, into sleep, into dreams, into the unconscious, where the real work happens. You don't need to stay awake. You don't need to keep listening. You've heard enough. Now, just sleep. Deep, restful, transformative sleep, where the psyche does what it knows how to do, where the self guides you toward wholeness, where the emptiness becomes spaciousness, becomes freedom, becomes home. Sleep. Just sleep. And know that when you wake, you'll be a little different, a little more yourself, a little more whole. Not because the emptiness is gone, but because you've learned how to hold it, how to live with it, how to be yourself with it. And that's everything. Sleep now, deeply, peacefully, completely. You are safe. You are held. You are becoming who you were always meant to be. Rest. Just rest. The emptiness knows what it's doing. Your psyche knows what it's doing. You don't have to do anything. Just be. Just rest. Just sleep. Deep, deep, deep sleep. Where transformation happens, where truth emerges, where you come home to yourself. Finally, rest, sleep, peace. You are enough. You always were. Sleep.